Hi guys. So today I'm kind of struggling with what to do. I'm kind of getting into the watercoloring. I want to work more on my little junk journal or art journal. I want to, try out all the different products that I have coming in. I know for sure in the next few days you're going to see some diamond press items I've had for a little while. They sent them to me kind of early, but generally we like to release those kind of closer to the actual craft day on HSN. And then sometimes HSN releases things early and they just haven't. So I don't know, but keep an eye out for those things from Diamond Press. And then obviously reviews of items that I've been purchasing and things like that. I did want to let you know, since today is the 31st, it's actually my mom's 70th birthday, so happy birthday. But it's the last day to use your 20% off coupon on Local King Rubber Stamps site. It's 20% off your regular price items, and then she always has some kind of like monthly specials you might want to check out, because a lot of times those have a really great price and a free shipping attached to those. And then also I think today's the last day if you're looking at AI art impressions, if you want to use the code GLMM2020 for 20% off your purchase. And if you haven't done so already, I think it's one-time use. And then what else was I gonna mention? Yeah, I just, my brain's all over the place. Like the news, still with coronavirus out there and things are, and everything else. And I don't know. I feel just kind of weird this morning. But I hope you guys are doing well and can find some time to kind of do some crafting to kind of ease the nerves and kind of maybe put you in a different state of mind, So that's what I was kind of doing today, because I was like, what do I want to do? I want to mess around with some watercolors, but I've been doing that kind of often this last couple days, and I want to give you guys obviously a variety of things. So I know I recently picked up the Tim Holtz speckled egg bundle, which I didn't know it was going to be speckled egg. It was like a surprise kind of bundle I paid for early, and then I just waited until it was available, and I got that. I will have a link for the bundle if you care to see that, because I know it's sold out in some places. Some places have it. Some places have just the individual items. Some of the individual items are sold out. So it came with the distressed oxide, the distressed ink, again, all the same colors, speckled eggs. So the spray stain, which, to be honest, I prefer the stains than the sprays than I do the pads, but we'll talk about all these things. So I thought what I'll do is chat a little bit about what each of these things does, since we have pretty much the whole kit and caboodle here, and then we'll go from there. So I love Tim Holtz as a person. He's awesome. He can accessorize with the best of them. Every time I watch one of his videos, I'm like, what's he got there? What's he got? Some rings, we got a chain, bracelet, maybe some leather, some rubbery looking thing. I don't know. He accessorizes better than I do. I don't even wear anything other than my ring, really, but he cracks me up. So just a really creative genius, but I don't do a lot of the stamps and things, because it's just not really my style, or a lot of the ephemera kind of things, unless it's very, different than what he typically does. Then I grab those items. But sorry, I've had my coffee. I haven't had one sip yet. So I want to talk about these things really quickly. So I think, and I get these questions all the time with like the Crafter's Companion inks, and I am not an expert on anything other than I've just been crafting for a very long time. So I've seen the trends, I've seen them come back, I've seen them, come back, and all these different things. Distressed ink and distressed oxide to me is just, it's ink, okay? That's what I see, in my opinion, with the distressed ink. It's ink. It's just your dye ink. It's acid-free dye ink, just like anything else. So if you wet this, it's going to react just like any other ink is going to react. And that's why whenever you want to do something with wet water, or with water, should I say, you're using VersaFine, because it's a different material. It's not going to react when you touch water to VersaFine ink. I think this one, I always say it's like an oil-based, but I don't know. Yeah, oil-based ink. And when you're done using it, you kind of wipe it off your stamp, and it comes off because it's oily, right? So that's not going to react with your water when you go to kind of play with it, or maybe do a little brushing, or just when you go to do anything water-based, ink. And so that's why when you have an alcohol ink, you have to use an alcohol-proof ink to stamp with, before you color in. And I think that's probably water-based, to be honest. It's just, it just depends on how that works. But so this, to me, distress ink is just like any other ink. Any ink you get that's, a dye ink is your basic ink, right? So with Crafter's Companion, that would be like your water reactive inks. To a certain extent, the quick dry inks, because they dry really quick, but they're dye inks, So water reactive or any other basic ink is a dye ink. So I know it gets kind of confusing, and people give me, I'm telling you, I field this question like every day, daily. So it's just based in, it's a water-based ink, okay? Just like your water-based markers, like your Tombows, and you can kind of use them as watercolor because it reacts with water. So Distress Oxide is more of like a pigment ink, or it is a pigment ink. So this is just like your Crafter's Companion opaque pigment, or if you have any old Martha Stewart ink pads, you can best bet they're probably pigment ink. A lot of people do that. We Are Memory Keepers always puts out pigment inks. I think Anna Griffin are mostly pigment inks. Pigment inks are not my favorite. They take forever to dry and they're really horrible, in my opinion. So this one does stay a little wet, but it doesn't stay as wet as most pigment inks, in my opinion. At least that's my experience with it. So you can let me know what you think. Whatever I do here, there's going to be so many more things you can do with it. I know that. So, you know, you can leave your tips or how you like to use things. I know a lot of times people say, you should do this. And I've never really told you guys, you should do this. That to me is like, ugh. If you're crafting and you're playing with stuff, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work, try again or try a different way. It doesn't matter. Use it how you want. You know, you bought them, they're yours. I know a lot of times I joke when I use the stencils, like Crafter's Companion stencils, they have an order 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. You can use them ascending, descending in different order, whatever works for your project. And people love to tell me, you did those out of order. And it's like, I can do whatever I want. It's just, again, you can too. You know, especially if you're layering colors, sometimes it doesn't work out. Like that one time I did embossing, I had to emboss do the lighter color first or however. Anyway, it was backwards, but it had to work that way for the embossing, you know? So do what you need to do for your project. It does not matter. Like, I do not, you know, I'm not gonna be the one to tell you you're not doing something right. Unless you guys want tips, all right? Like, you know, okay, I use water brushes. I was just thinking about that with the Melissa Francis watercolor pencils. I had used water brush, and I did want to mention, and a gal here, Kathy, was it? Says she likes to use just a brush, a regular brush, because the water brushes put down too much water for her. And I think if you're a beginner, or if you just, sometimes it does put down too much water, and it's better to just use a brush. I had mentioned you can just use a brush, but I didn't say, you know, if you're beginning, maybe you want to just use a regular brush and dip it in water, because you have a little more control. So, you know, things like that, but I'm not going to say that's what you have to do. And then the inks, the sprays, again, just Distress spray. It's just like the Distress ink, but in a spray bottle. And then the Distress Oxide spray is one of my favorites. Is just like the ink, the pad, but in a bottle. Obviously it's wet. We'll talk about these things. This one reacts a bunch more with water than, it does a fun thing than like the ink. To be honest, like Distress inks, unless for me, if I like the color, then it makes sense to buy it. But they were all the rage, so I have like 30 pads of this, and I probably have only used like 2 or 3 of them, especially the walnut stain, because we used to use walnut stain all the time for distressing. I mean, it's just like any other ink, in my opinion, but you guys can tell me if you disagree with that. So this is a Distress ink, Speckled Egg, the re-inker. So this is basically to re-ink your ink pad, but you can also just kind of play with it, drop the color, watercolor off of this, or, you know, use it in your brush. So we can talk about that. Distress Oxide, this one is the same. It's the re-inker for this guy, but again, you can do lots of fun things with this, including painting from it, you know. And then we have Distress Paint, which this is probably not a thing I'll ever even open, but fluid acrylic paint for multiple surfaces. So it's just your acrylic paint in the Speckled Egg color, you know. That's pretty much what I think of that. And this is your embossing powder, which is really cool in the pretty color, of course, in any color, whatever color you choose. It doesn't have to be obviously Speckled Egg. And then I had, you know, I was like, well, okay, I'll try some of these things out. And then I have tons of other sprays, Distress inks. Again, like I said, I haven't opened these. And then I have some more pads that match each other. Well, these don't, but Walnut Stain's a classic. I have Salty Ocean in the ink and in the oxide. I'm not going to really compare them too much, but I will play with them just a little bit so we can see how those work. I'm going to use watercolor paper and probably the Crafter's Companion stamping paper. You can use Bristol, which is also a good paper, smooth, to kind of just do a little watercoloring on, or to use those inks. And then I have this stamp set, which is adorable. I'll have the link in the description box too. So Snarky Cat. And this set is more inexpensive. You can buy them in wood blocks individually, but if you get it all together, it's just a better pricing. And it has a kinds of cute little sayings here. And I was like, am I really in the mood for snark right now? Because like the way things are, I'd rather be, let's all be nicer to each other, you know, kind of thing. But at the same time, they're very cute. They're not all mean, but they're a little snarky, okay? And I just don't know what I want to do with this, but I do want to kind of color him in, maybe with some of the ink. Yeah, we'll see about that. And then yeah, so I'm gonna grab some paper, cut it down, and we'll just get started and just kind of mess around a little bit. Okay, so I have no idea what I want to do with any of this, but let's start with some of just the white stamping paper. Again, this is from Crafter's Companion. Their stamping paper, so it's like 300 GSM, I believe. And I do have these separate, these little Tim Holtz distressing tools or whatever, inking tools, because the distressings, again, have that pigment to them, so you really kind of need to have an individual one for each color. Other than that, I used the magic mushrooms, which were sent to me for for review long ago by Local King, but I will be using those otherwise. So I think what I want to do is just start. I want to see if I have colors that are the same, so we can do this. I have picked raspberry. I thought I had this open because this is one of the colors I like. And I'm just going to do some distressing with just the regular inks. So I'm going to use speckled egg, I'm going to use picked raspberry, and salty ocean, because I do have the opposite of each one of those. You know what I'm saying? The two different types of ink. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to use the distressed oxide at that point. So basically, this will be interesting. I wasn't sure what I want to do with this. Let's start with the light speckled egg, and then we'll move up from there. So I'm just going to take my magic mushrooms, and normally I would do this with a paper underneath, but since we're probably going to incorporate some water later, I just left this rubber mat under here. But I'm just going to go ahead and pick up some speckled egg, and just start. And again, we always start off the edge of the paper. I mean, this is basic. So obviously if you're a pro, you already know that, but I'm just kind of dipping in here, and you start kind of out here, right? And just start rubbing. Because otherwise you're going to get a really harsh line, especially with those other kind of applicators that you're never going to be able to remove. It's just going to stay like that. I'm going to go from this right into Salty Ocean because that one's a deeper blue and I don't have to clean this off. And again, I'm going to start off the edge here. Ooh, that one's pretty. Again, usually if I have paper, I pat it off, so I wasn't able to do that this time. And then I'm going to go into pink, which is a sharp change here, but I'm going to put this blue one to the side for now. And I do have a pink magic mushroom. We do have a red one, but for this I'm going to use pink because it's pink. I'm move some of this stuff aside. I'm starting to run out of room here. I might have to switch out too. It's really rich in color too. So I'm just gonna, this stuff is super rich in color. So I've always had really bad luck blending the water reactive colors from Crafter's Companion. And I know sometimes they say to use glycerin, which is just something extra you have to, pick up. It's inexpensive, but you gotta find it. And I just never had good luck with it. Now hopefully you can see as the blue and the pinkish color are coming together, it's kind of turning purple there. So I just had to kind of keep working it. I do have kind of a harsh line with my blue down here, so I'm going to come back with the speckled egg, even though I use the darker blue. I'm not really too afraid here. And bring that in. Now we see, so again, it all depends on the paper you're using, different things like that. So I can see kind of some texture, but again, it's because of the paper, right? And then another fun thing people like to do with this is kind of spray it. And I do have a sprayer. The sprayer I have here, unfortunately, I do have tons of mini misters. It's so funny. I was looking for something else the other day, and I was like, because I had put that red. Remember I showed you guys how to use the what's it called? Perfect Pearls in here. And I added actually more red ink because it's really pretty. But I was like, oh no. So I found a whole pack. I found 2 packs of mini misters I haven't used before. So this one is from Crafter's Companion, I believe. It's really fine. But if you hold it down, not spray it because then it's going to be really fine, is you kind of make it so you're not actually using it Do you know what I'm saying? Like kind of, it's hard to, so that way it's dripping, but not, there we go, but not spraying, okay? So you kind of get a little, and the spray is good too, the fine spray, but you kind of want just the drops of water. And then you can come in with a little paper or a towel or whatever and then pick it up. So it reacts a lot like the water reactive dyes, because that's what, in my opinion, that's what dye inks do. They react with water. So yeah, they're going to react with water. So that's nice and fun. And I just wet it, so I'm going to let that dry a little bit. What I'm going to do is grab another piece of paper and we're going to do the exact same thing, but with the Distress Oxides. So I am going to probably fast forward this, because I'm going to do the exact same thing with the same colors, but with their own little scrubber, okay? Or a little tool here. And I'll be right back. Because I wanted to just talk about how these blend easier. It's because they have that pigment and it's just like really smooth, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, there's something about this one. And even when I use the Carefree's Companion Pigment inks, I had mentioned that they blend really nicely. But they're pigment inks, so they take a long time to dry. You may want to heat set it with, well, you can try drying them, but you can also put on top of them some clear embossing powder or something to kind of set them faster if you're doing like a stamping. This is not my favorite tool, just so you know, that square shape. And I do have the round one. I don't know why I'm sticking with square. But now we're going to go into the picked raspberry. And my hands are getting stuff all over them. Let me see if I can... Again, still coming off the side, especially with this guy, this larger tool. He really wants to put square lines everywhere if you just go boom, you know? So again, just kind of light-handed. And you can always squish these onto like a glass mat and then work with them from there. I'm just dipping into the pad itself. But really pretty. Not a lot of blending here between the two colors, but that might just be my technique here. But let me see if I can get a little more. That's probably nicer. It's a little more. And then again, that speckled egg is just a very light color. I can probably come back in and do a little bit more with it. Let me try to hit that one more time. And one thing I remember Tim Holtz saying a while back whenever these came out, if you want to clean up, like spraying this with water, this area is just going to make more ink because it activates it, you know? So it's just harder to clean up. But let me get some more of that speckled egg. And yeah, it's just a really light color. I love that. So pretty. But look at that. So let me wipe this away. Let me clean this area up and then we'll play with this a little bit. Okay. Ah, this camera's crooked. Okay. So let's take a look at those. This is still kind of wet feeling. And then this guy here, let me rearrange some things. So this is a better view here. All right. So again, with this guy, you can add some water. It didn't react as much as like it does with the spray. So I'm just going to take this and get some better squirts of water. So Tim Holtz has a really cute water bottle. You know, if you want to look at that, it's not something I would pick up. I already have plenty of them, and I actually have one in the garage I was thinking about bringing out. I got it at the Dollar Tree. It's just a small kind of handheld because you can get more variation with that. The water's kind of reacting. Hopefully you can kind of see. I'm going to dry it because I don't want to wait for that to dry, but I'm going to dry it, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so I kind of dried both of them. This one obviously took a little more water on, so it's just a little bit wet. So for me, the fun things are the sprays. I'm going to use the Distress Spray. Again, it's just ink, basically, and we're just going to squirt some of this. And you can interchange this kind of thing. You can squirt this over here, whatever you want. So I obviously can't run the gamut of what this stuff does in one little video because it's, you know, it does a lot. But again, this will also make the ink kind of do some things because it's water on water reactive ink. And then on this side, you can spray this stuff too and do whatever you like. I kind of want to go and use some of the Distress Oxide sprays. I don't have the exact same colors. I mean, obviously I have this guy. Did I ever use this yet? I haven't used this? I thought I did. Okay. And we'll just do some spray. But again, you have a nice gradient. You don't have to mess it up with the stuff. But you can wet the paper, then do this. You can do this, then wet the paper. There's lots of different ways to manipulate these sprays. You just got to play with it. And see how close I am going to give a nice little splatter. So if you want to do a little something. So there's that. And in the meantime, I'm also going to spray some worn lipstick, which I think I used recently. I have a few of these. What else do I have? I have black soot, which is a crazy one to play with because it will be very dark. So hopefully you can kind of see how that's sprayed. And you can dry this and now you have some kind of little artsy thing, but we're going to go ahead and wet it some more. So I'm going to add some more water and you can kind of see how it moves around. You can move it around, you can let it sit, you can let it do what you wanted it to do. A lot of times I don't really like water dripping like that, but what I'm going to do is take this. Now, another thing is Ranger has a heat tool. This is a heat gun. Their heat tool just kind of, if you even get real close, it doesn't move the, I guess it just puts out like a heat, right? This one blows really hard. So it's going to move the liquid, but if you want to do that, you know, if you don't, just keep it up higher, like way up here, and it'll just dry. But I do want to move these beads, which again aren't my favorite thing. So I'm going to continue drying this and I'll be right back. Okay, again, while I was doing this, you could have smushed it. You could have turned it over and smushed it. You could have smushed it with another piece of paper. It gives a different look. So very fine colors in there and you can see that. So with this guy, the speckled egg is very light. So it didn't really do a whole lot to change up some of these colors, but I do have some here. And so I think I'm going to spray some of this wilted violet. Yeah, why not? I think this probably was a Halloween set or something because it has carved pumpkin, wilted violet, and then whatever this brown one. Oh, is it walnut stain? No, it's not. It is antique bronze. But anyway, you don't have to shake these. I don't know why I'm shaking it. But one other tip they always say is to clean off your oxide bottles once you're done using them. So you can see how this, I don't know if you see the nozzle, kind of has like some gunk. So I'm just going to wipe it on my towel here just to keep it spraying longer. And I'm going to get this going, hopefully. There we go. It's coming. Oh, I like that. And I like the way it looks. You know what? I'm going to spray some of that over here too. Again, like I said, you can mix and match this stuff. And I'm just getting little speckles. I did it very softly, so it wasn't like a psst spray. It's just like a little drops. And I'm going to use my heat gun to dry this just so we can move on. Okay, so I am done with these for now, but look at how pretty. I am in love with this. I don't know what's going on here, but I like the little spray stains, the little dots that came out back there. And then this one is much brighter. Same colors, they just give a different effect because this is dye ink, you know, so it's a dye. It works totally different. I did mention watercolor paper, and now I'm like so past what I wanted to do. So I'm just going to get this little tiny piece of watercolor paper. This is that premium watercolor paper from Crafter's Companion that I had to fight with the other day. But for right now, I'm just going to use it real quick to, I'm going to go ahead and add some water. You know what? I'll just add water to this top part, just so you kind of see what this looks like if you put water first and then the spray. And I'm going to use my sprays for this because I love them. And so I have worn lipstick here, and I'm going to kind of try to spray in both areas. See? You see how it's already reacting with the water and with the knot. And these are the distress oxide sprays, because that's what I want to use. And this one is such a light color. So pretty. So, again, we can dry this. Ooh, now that I have these two things on here, I'm like, how do I want to do this? I just kind of want to show you how it looks different when you use the water than if you're just going to spray it dry. But again, you can dry it and then wet it again, or all kinds of fun things. But right now at this point, I think what I'm going to do is add a little more of this there, and I'm going to wet it all. But I'm not going to wet it with a brush, I'm going to wet it with water because I like the little wet look. And, ooh, maybe I'll just take another piece of paper here to smush it. I'm just going to take another piece of that stamping paper and give it a smush. Obviously this is bigger than the other piece, but so I have some color on here, and I can still spray more, play with this more, and then this guy too. And again, I think that blue is just really going away here, so I'm going to have to add a little more. What I'm going to do is dry this, and then I'm going to hit it with some blue. So I'm going to dry this completely, and we'll hit it with more speckled egg. Completely dry, but almost. Again, you don't have to, we'll leave it like that. I'm gonna leave this kind of dry over here, but I do want more color over here in this area. There we go. That's what I want. All right, you know what? I'm not gonna wet it. I was gonna wet it again, but I think I like this, so I'm gonna dry it and I'll show you what that looks like. So again, this is just watercolor paper. It's gonna take it in a little bit differently than other paper, but really nice, sweet, soft background. I do wanna show you something. This is kind of fun. Tell me this doesn't look like a jelly plate design. So maybe we just stumbled across something. So the smaller paper was underneath here and I was messing with it, and then I took this larger one and put it right over. So maybe that's another way to get a looking like a jelly plate looking thing, because there's no ink around this outer, right, around it. I mean, there was, but I didn't really touch it. So kind of cool. It gave us a little jelly plate look. You know, if you want to cut it down, obviously it's kind of going away, but not really. I mean, that's still pretty cool. So hey, maybe that's a little something you can practice on. So now what I'm gonna do, and this video is gonna be like a million years long, is stamp one of our little guys and color him in. So I will be right back. Okay, hopefully I'm ready to do this. They're all so cute. I don't know. Ay, ay, ay. He's so tiny though. Let me see. Well, yeah, maybe I'll use this little tiny guy. I want to use a little bit bigger guy, but I see a lot of examples using some of these other ones. I hardly see examples with this guy, but he would be very cute if you drew him holding like a cup of coffee. He looks kind of sleepy. What is this? The one piece keeps falling off out of my hand. So this is a cling stamp. It's very small. It's really cute to also pile a bunch of these guys up, you know, on your card. But I'm just going to do the one, and I was going to cut him out, but he's so tiny. I don't know what I want to do with this. Okay, VersaFine, which takes a second to dry, which is what kind of drives me nuts about VersaFine. But, you know, maybe I will. Maybe I'll still put him on here and cut him out and just put him layered over one of these backgrounds. So I'll just put him in the center of this paper. Again, get a nice impression here, hopefully. I probably should have put this on a stamp positioner, but yeah, he's pretty fine. And so VersaFine does real well with these kind of stamps. I'm gonna let this dry for a minute before we get started. Okay, I'm gonna cut this piece of paper down, so I'm not gonna be too worried. I did want to show you a couple other things. I have this empty, I think from Daiso watercolor palette. I don't even know why I got it, because to be honest, I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, how am I gonna use this? But it's basically made for watercolors. I just want to show you real quick what this stuff does if you wanted to use it as to color with. I'm not gonna use it on my little guy, because I'm gonna do something different with that. Oh, sorry guys, I didn't realize this thing was closed and so well. I hope you guys are doing okay, kind of getting some crafty time here. I'm just gonna take a little bit of this. Why does it look so dark? And we don't need a lot, like that's probably even too much. And I remember Tim Holtz mentioning that if you just leave it here, obviously it'll dry. He says it never dries, but it will dry. But when you touch it with water, it'll react again and you can keep using it, so it's not a waste. So these again are both speckled egg. And I'm assuming you can probably do the same thing with the spray stains, because it's just, you know, here, let me show you. I would just kind of squirt some in here, or maybe open the bottle. Might be a better way to do it, but I'll just put some in there. Because I have a lot of stains, I would like to use them. Again, watercolor paper, nice thick stamping paper. I'm just gonna wet this brush because I have it sitting here. And let's pretend you're gonna color something in. You can just get a little of the color and color something in, right? I mean, all the way down to probably nothing. That's the just the regular re-inker. And I'm gonna wet, obviously my brush is wet. I'm gonna touch this oxide. And it's already getting kind of clumpy, but it's hard to tell because it's oxide. And again, you can use that, and look how pigmented that is. All of these things, well, not all of these. The oxide looks really great on like craft paper because you can see all that little chalky pigment. But again, it's just like any pigment ink. It looks awesome. And let's try this purple one. Yeah, so you can use your stains, your sprays in the same way. And you can also use your distress markers, obviously, for coloring. Look how pretty. I like that purple. We're not going to use purple right now, but that's really nice. And maybe I should have, though, because everything else in my backgrounds is purple. I was going to color my cat green because I was like, I really want to use peel paint. So that's what I'm going to do, but you don't have to, or do whatever you like. Maybe I got too close to him with all these colors. We'll see what happens. This is just fly by the seat of our pants here. Okay, so this is peeled paint, and normally what I would do is not put it on this guy, but I'm just gonna put some down. I have my brush again, a little bit wet, and I'll just dip it every time, but I do prefer using a water brush, to be honest, for me, because I'm just better at that. But I'm just gonna come in with some of that green and just put it around his little arms, in this area where he has the little stripes, you know? And I'm just putting down a layer of color for right now. But do it however you like. So I'm going to come back in here with a little bit drier brush and get a little more color and just kind of darken the green where I think it would be darker. And I don't really have a color for his little tummy area, that middle part. But what I think I'm going to do is just use marigold, which is weird because it's super orange, but maybe I can water it down enough so it doesn't look too crazy. Just come in a little bit with that color. Let's see what happens. So this is just plain distress ink, okay? And I have dried marigold here, which is, again, super orange. So what I'm going to do is get a lot of water. And I just want this for like a little accent color around in here. So yeah, I was able to kind of dilute it enough just to give me a little something so it's not so white. But that's good. And then maybe I'll do like his little top eyelid green. Oh, I guess the bottom one too. Alright. Pretty good. Now let me think about what I want to do as far as cutting him out or using him on here, and then we'll go from there. So as I was cutting him down, trying to get rid of the extra paint that was around there, he ended up being 2 3/4 inches square. I think it works out okay. Obviously his tail's way over here, and this could be cut down a little bit, but I figured, why cut it down? Because, you know what I'm saying, if I cut it close to him, you can do that. But he has like equal like white space kind of on either side. So to make this kind of go a little bit with some of the papers I already used, I'm going to take my pink. And this was the one that had the pigment on it, and I guess maybe I'll use, I kind of wanted to go brighter, but you know what, that's what we'll do. Oh, the oxides are also in gray cases, and the regular pigment, or the regular inks, are in black cases. So I'm going to take the picked raspberry and just kind of bring some around the edge here. So pretty. I do like this, because this does have what I would say is a distressed look to it. You know, with the other inks, like I said, I think they just use that as a marketing thing, right? Oh, distress ink. But, I mean, it's ink. Like, most dye inks react with water, so yeah, you can distress them. But, I do like this one. I mean, again, like I said, it's kind of like a pigment ink. But that's cute. Just gave it a little color and hopefully kind of brought it in with the background of the card, because I'm just going to basically stamp this with a little sentiment and then move on. We're good. So I'm going to take this little tiny guy. Like I said, they're all pretty snarky there. So I'm going to take Hey Trainwreck, This Isn't Your Station, and in black ink, of course, just to make it crisp. And I'm going to stamp it on here. And I need to go look. I know I have the little extras, like the little party hats and all those kind of things that Tim Holtz has for his little creatures. But I'm just gonna... I love that. I have a bunch of old-fashioned, or not old-fashioned, basically old typewriters. And sometimes I'll type out my own little sentiment, because it looks really nice. And the reason I have the ones I have is because they all have different typefaces from different... decades, basically. They're super old. But anyway, okay, so what I'm gonna do is take this. I'm probably gonna use my 3D glue gel to stick it to like this card base, and then stick this, not card base, but to card topper, I guess, and then stick this to my card base. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope, you know, you had a little fun kind of playing, kind of learning a little bit. I mean, if that's a learning about these kind of things. You can do whatever, mix and match and tons more, several colors, let some dry, you know, I mean, there's so much to do with it. And then again, you can pretty much paint with all of them if you wanted to do that with a brush, or, you know, make your own spray out of them. Like, there's so much that you can do. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll have any links that are pertinent to some of the things I had shown here, and I will see you at the next one. I hope you're all doing well, staying safe, staying healthy, and, you know, my heart goes out to everyone, and I will see you guys at the next one. Bye now.